Congratulations to Novi Palms, who clinched their state championship. Also, congratulations to boys swim and dive on their divisional and conference championship. Girls basketball will play for the district championship tomorrow, Friday, March 3rd at 7 p.m. at Salem High School, First Canyon. The varsity hockey plays tonight, Thursday, March 2nd, versus Livonia Stevenson for a chance to play for a regional championship this Saturday. Game time tonight is at 8:15 at the Novi Ice Arena.
Can we get done by 8:15 so we can do that game?
I was just thinking we might at least be able to make it over there for a portion of it, depending on how long our presentation goes. So,
Depends on.
thank you, Ms. Brzezinski. Does anyone have questions or comments?
When's the last time we won a POM state championship? That's amazing.
I think it was like 2011.
That's fantastic.
It's been a long time, so it was really cool for
great.
them to win.
Yeah. It's really exciting to see our student athletes excel.
Yeah.
So, and thank you for being here this evening. I know that there was some discussion about who can make it. So
Yeah.
we're glad you were available.
Thank you, me too.
All right. Next, we have our comments from the audience. This is an opportunity if you'd like to address the board on anything that's currently on our agenda. We do see a few people in the audience. If they would like to address the board, all we ask is that you approach the podium. We limit your comments to 5 minutes, and if you would like to talk, to fill out a green card and leave it with Ms. Holly, who is sitting right back there before you go to. So would anyone like to address the board at this time? All right, well, seeing none, we will move on to reports to the board. Dr. Weber.
Yes, thank you, President Murphy. Being that I'm in a dual role tonight, I'm actually going to go to the podium and present. Terribly excited about that, so let me head up here. And tonight we have a presentation about ideas and really how, from a K-12 district approach, we can engender ideas for our kids, provide the opportunities for them to have those ideas transform and to turn into some pretty magical things. Just last Friday, I was contacted via Twitter by the head of HR for Bosch North America. So he reached out via Twitter directly for a tweet that I sent around some work that our robotics team was doing with printing 3D hands. And Saturday I was working with a team of people. We met for 4 or 5 hours trying to problem solve some different things, but we thought perhaps it would be good if we could get a video together to showcase the work that is occurring. So we reached out to Mr. Letarte, who some of you know and has done some great work. He then in quick order reached out to a group of students. In the video you're going to see right now is going to be shared with 400,000 people globally via Bosch, and I was contacted 3 hours ago by the Industrial Design Society of America, who will also be pushing this out to all of their members, as well as I think there's 60,000 Twitter followers. So prepare to be inspired if you haven't seen this. Prepare to cry a little bit. It's absolutely stunning, and the young lady who's actually helping produce us tonight, who's downstairs, was the woman who first approached me to see what we could do to get some help. So we actually purchased a 3D printer for the robotics team to use to do what you're going to see.
Immediately was like, this is really cool, and I want to get involved in this.
Our goal by summertime is to make 50 prosthetic hands by ourselves in our high school.
So this is our model hand. It's called the Raptor Reloaded. This one is not finished yet. It will have padding and Velcro straps.
We have donated over 65 hands, and we, over the last couple of years, and since we have the new Bosch printer, it's a lot easier to make more and more quickly.
That really enable kind of struck as something really important because it allows us to get back.
So in our second year of doing this partnership with Enable, we were contacted by someone in Tulipsy, Georgia, the country, not the state, about a little elementary school girl who needed a hand.
This girl specifically, she presented a couple of different challenges for our Enable project. We had to find a model that was compatible with her small stature, and she was kind of almost scared of the 3D printed hands because they looked kind of menacing to her. So we printed it in bright pink filament and we made this smaller model. And so when she got the hand, she was super excited about it.
We were able to work together to find a compatible model that she was able to use.
And we have a picture of her holding her Barbie doll. And so when we got this, we kind of realized what the impact of this was, right? We weren't just printing these projects and sending them off. We were really making an impact in people's lives.
What spoke to me the most about this whole thing was the very simple fact that our kids were using not only the privilege that they had from resources, but also their intellect, their creativity to do something very altruistic, which was to help people around the world.
Our partnership with Enable affects people around the world and literally gives them a helping hand so they can continue on with their daily lives.
That's cool. Yeah. Wow.
Pretty amazing kids, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So here, and I'll pass these around, you'll actually get to see some of the hands. And Miss Anderson downstairs, hello, I hope you're doing well. And she was in the video and she's producing. So I want to go ahead and send these around the table for you guys to enjoy. Here you go. And to get an idea of exactly what's going on. All right, let's have some fun. So really the beauty of ideas and how ideas are universal, opportunities to share these ideas are sometimes not. Eventually, everything connects. People, ideas, and objects. What we're going to talk about tonight is not a class to service 30 kids or 20 kids, but an approach that 6,500 of our kids will have the ability to have the opportunity to do things like code. It's happening today. As a matter of fact, we're going to show you pictures and explain some things that are happening in our elementary schools in this very day. Again, reaching 6,500 kids is the goal, not just 30. So what happens to an idea? Well, that depends. Love this quote. Miss Franchi, who I'm going to introduce you tonight, found this quote. I think it fits perfectly. Men are mortals, so are ideas. An idea needs propagation as much as a plant needs watering. Otherwise, both will wither and die. The beautiful thing about public schools with publicly elected school boards and teachers is I like to think of us as those happy gardeners, those people who sow the seeds in our kids, who do everything we can to do to give them the opportunity to live the life they deserve. So what happens to an idea when it's watered? This is an example of what happens to an idea when it's watered. So if you take a look at the screen, you're going to see something called the Suncubator Thermal Bed for babies in underdeveloped areas. This was developed, if you look at those names on the bottom, by people who are no more than 20 years old. The Suncubator fills a particular need, and I'll show you what that need is. So here's the problem. The problem is that in some parts of the world it's very, very hot in the daytime and very, very cold at night. What that can do to infants is it can take their life. These 4 young people came up with the idea of creating something called the Suncubator, which stores solar heat during the daytime with some gel and a layer of material in there, and then at night keeps the baby warm during the day. I want you to think of this Suncubator idea as we go up the chain, K through 12th grade. Or we look at the one board used to treat arm, leg, and ankle fractures. It's called a bone aid. You can put 18,000 of these casts on a truck as opposed to 500 normal casts. So imagine going to a disaster area where there was an earthquake and needing to have a tremendous amount of splints, of casts. This idea, again, developed by young people around the world. So what happens to an idea in a place like Nettleton, Mississippi, or Negaunee, Michigan? You'll notice the alliteration in the ends. In Novi, Michigan, I would say that we water our ideas here, and we're really trying to do so. So what we're going to share with you tonight is this notion of ideas and turning those ideas into opportunities. 3 different stages. The first stage is activation, the second stage is application, the third stage is integration. Activation occurs kindergarten through 4th grade, application occurs 5th through 8th grade, and integration occurs 9th through 12th grade. So let's go ahead and go into our K-4 world. What you're going to see is what's already happening. All of these things are already in place. We launched this concept in August, and it is succeeding wonderfully, and we can't wait to share it with you. So what we did is we seeded our K through 4 buildings with things called curiosity kits. And they include things like Strawbees, Kiva planks, and a make-do toolkit, and a Dremel 3D printer. So I'm going to ask the folks downstairs who are running the cameras to focus on the wood blocks in front of you. And I'm going to ask the board members to go ahead right now and take a look at these blocks. These are called Kiva planks. They're made of maple. And if we could get a close-up from downstairs on some of these, that would be great. Maybe you're doing that already, and I just don't know. But Kiva planks are simply maple planks, and that's it. Oh, there we go. Perfect. Beautiful shot. Thank you, downstairs. So what we have, and I believe you're over Miss Murphy, so Miss Murphy, no sudden movement. Sorry, nothing too quick here. But what we actually have happening is our language arts teachers will have a kid read a passage in a book, and then whatever they see from that passage in their head, they'll recreate it with these wooden planks. The other piece, Mr. Cook, I know you're an engineer. If you could go over to Mr. Cook, he's already built his thing, is the fact that this is a low-resolution, low-tech way to teach basic mathematical skills as well and structural design. What we're going to show you with our computer-aided design is when we teach our kids how to interact with this low-tech, it makes the high-tech that much easier and that more applicable. So every single elementary school in our district has bags of, and I'm going to have to put you on the spot. Can you move them over and into Ms. Murphy's spot? So you can build one too. It's okay. There it is. You can build something together. Look at there. Great shot. Great shot. So this idea, when you have and you give kids challenges and let them do whatever they want with it, it really promotes lateral thinking. One of the great parts about this is there is no curriculum K-4. Let me say that again. There is no curriculum for the curiosity kits. This is about activation. It's about giving kids the opportunity to explore, to do what they want to do, however they might want to do it. And I encourage you to play with those through the night, actually. I've never seen that one. That's a good one, Bobby. That's great. So on the shared kit, we have things called Makeys, Aza Bots, Spheros, Osmo, Dot, and Dash. We're going to explain what those are for you. If you take a look at this picture, you'll see the Strawbees, which are simply a collection of straws that you can connect together. We're back to the presentation. The Kiva planks, how they come in those big bags. And then we have something called a make-do toolkit. And I'll actually pass this around. These are great. These are like $9 each. And what you do with them is they're a small toolkit in which you can affix cardboard together and make shields and suits of armor and bridges and whatever you want, whatever your imagination will take you to. And so those are seated in all of our elementary schools as well. The next thing we have is we have Dremel 3D printers. We have 9 of them total in the district. And that means that, yes, ladies and gentlemen, we have first graders who know how to use computer-aided design who are printing today. Today. On the right is, I'm a little biased, but this is Ian Weber, a Deerfield student. We stopped by the robotics, the high school. The robotics team uses, 6 to 8 rooms every Saturday. They use the high school every night. And Ian and I stopped by just to see what they were up to, and this is where we got introduced to the hand. And when we got introduced to that hand, that's what really brought this conversation along with Miss Anderson and with members of her team. We have things called Makey. It looks kind of silly, but you actually turn fruit into musical instruments. And so what we're doing is we're teaching kids about electricity. We're teaching kids about how to make things. And you'll see on the right, these kids are highly engaged doing so. In a moment, here's the next piece. You guys are going to have some fun here in a second. Some big fun. These are called Aza Bots. Every single K-4 kid will interact with these by the end of this school year. And the Aza Bot is going to be introduced to you from a colleague of mine, Miss Melissa Matson. And Miss Matson will introduce herself, but I will just say that I've worked with Miss Matson now, and I don't know what I ever did to get so fortunate to have colleagues like Sheila Hawley and Melissa Matson work with me out of my office. But both of those people have been incredible inspirations for me, and Ms. Matson is actually going to take you through what an Aza Bot does.
Good evening. I am Melissa Matson, as RJ just mentioned, and I am the executive assistant for Dr. Weber. I am also a loyal customer of the school district. I am a parent, and we've been in the district for 15 years. I wanted to share with you tonight a little bit about something that's in front of you. This is a piece of high-tech equipment that is also included in the Curiosity Kit. Meet the Aza Bot. If you could please pick up your Aza Bot, hold it in the palm of your hand, and have this NCSD, the Novi logo, looking at you. You can turn on your Aza Bot by looking to the left side of it. The clear circle, you can just touch a finger to it and press kind of firmly. And when it turns on, you'll know because you'll see the glowing LED at the top on the dome. So what this particular type of robot is a line-following robot. Line-following robots have been around since the 1950s. They're used in all types of industries. They're used in manufacturing to bring raw materials to manufacturing lines. They're used in hospitals to bring medicine to different areas of a hospital. They're even used in restaurants. Our kids, K through 4, get the opportunity to use these types of robots every day in their curriculum. So if you were to take your robot, you also have a couple of pieces of paper in front of you as well. One of them looks like a map. So if you can take a peek at that and set it on a very flat part of the surface in front of you, you can place your robot on it and it will follow the line. When the robot reaches different color sequences, it'll do different exercises. If you see the red, green, part of the line, it'll do a little spin. And when it reaches the other color coding section, it'll do a zigzag. So, guess what? Our kids get to make these maps in their schools. K through 4 kids get to program this robot by making a map. All you need is a red, green, blue, and black marker. And if you look at the second sheet that's in front of you, there's an Aza Bot key. It shows all of the different color combinations that cause the Aza Bot to react differently. So you can set the speed of the robot, you can set the direction of the robot, you can set it to do kind of like dancing. So why is this important? The reason why it's so important for the kids is it teaches them so many things. First of all, it teaches them about high-tech things. I never saw one of these when I was young. Have you? It also teaches you about problem solving. Why do I say problem solving? Today I was trying to work one of these, and a colleague of mine passed by, and I was trying to draw my own map with my markers, and it wasn't doing what I thought it should do. And so we worked on it collectively together, and she said, you know what, I think that you might have a little bit of a bump underneath your paper. You have a folder. So I don't think the robot's really reading correctly what you want it to do. So that's a really beautiful thing to have our kids learn to problem solve. But they're not just problem solving alone, they're problem solving together because they might see someone else who's using this robot correctly. So they learn communication skills because they have to go talk to someone else to ask them, how did you get that to work? So that's a beautiful thing. Also, it teaches social skills. It teaches kindness because you have to be kind in order to have someone want to help you. It also teaches creativity because I think you can make this guy dance if you want. As well as the most important thing that I think is that it offers the chance for kids to be curious and to find out answers to their curiosity. And isn't that what we would like for all 6,500 students in our district? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Matson. Ms. Matson also has her BS in Engineering from Penn State and her MBA from Old Dominion, so brings a skill set to the office that I am grateful for every single minute. We also have these, and Mr. Cook, maybe you'd like to speak to this a second. The first time I ever met one of these for our kids was in my office with Mr. Cook. He came in and showed me how to make a brush bot, which is a whole different story. It's a toothbrush. It's really cool. But he said, hey, take a look at this. This is called a Sphero, and this is also programmable. You can take these and cover them up, dip them in paint, and have them paint. So, Mr. Cook, do you want to speak to this a little bit?
It's a very open platform that a lot of school districts are using as educational tools. It's like the Aza Bot. They use them in collaborative problem-solving areas where it may be fun. One of the neatest things I have seen was a golf course laid out on the floor, and the kids were playing golf by programming the Sphero. There's other things that you program it to roll a certain distance. You program it to change colors. You program it as it rolls over colors to change colors. So there's a lot that you can do with it. I did read a story one time when they built these, they were worried that they would break, and the manufacturer took it and dropped it off the top of the second story roof onto a sidewalk. It bounced, did not break. They didn't say whether it functioned yet, but the housing did not break.
And I think it was May, Paul, when you showed me this, and this shows the kind of the turnaround time we've had on this project, is that from the idea of seeing some of these items, then being able to think about how to enact this, and then Ms. Mattson going ahead and working to order all these things, help organize them with our media specialists and put them in our kids' hands, is a testament to the speed in which we can also act in here. And so, Mr. Cook, I appreciate you introducing me to that. It's really cool. The next part, and this is a picture over here of 2 first graders, and they are coding. Yes, they are coding in first grade. All of our kids will touch this technology this year as well. And now it's my distinct pleasure to introduce Ms. Kristin Franchi. Ms. Franchi is a teacher at Novi High School. Ms. Franchi teaches at least 15 members of our robotics team in her coding classes. So they are actually in her classes, and they take that and apply that to our robotics program, which I think is fantastic. And they really benefit from her tutelage. I had the good fortune to start working with Ms. Franchi this year, and I can't say enough great things about her. One of the greatest things, and earlier about this tonight, was like, so how are you going to explain like this picture to our community and our board? How is that coding? And it took her all of a millisecond to now teach all of us around the table what she was talking about. So I'd like to introduce Kristin Franchi.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll take a little bit more than a millisecond right now to explain, if you don't mind. Thanks for having me. As Dr. Weber said, I teach kids to code. I always say I teach kids to be code makers and difference makers. That's our motto in my classroom. So I teach AP Computer Science in the programming language Java and computer programming in Python, 2 very high-level languages that are used by pretty much every major company in the world. This year we'll probably have about 180 students that I'll teach throughout the school year that will leave knowing how to code enough so they could probably get a job right out of high school coding, and that's how much in demand it is. Currently, there's a new statistic out that in 2020 there's going to be 1.4 million new computer science jobs, but they're only predicting 400,000 to fulfill those jobs. So I think here in Novi we are doing something that not very many districts are doing, and that comes into play with the Osmo. So I teach kids to do 2 things: the syntax and the meaning of the language. I teach them to code in Java and Python. In fact, that's actually the easier part of my job. The second part is the problem solving. I teach kids to be problem solvers and how to use code to solve problems. And usually the first time that they see computer programming is when they enter in my class, prior to all of this. But as I'm seeing first graders using the Osmo, they are learning those problem solving skills as first graders, second graders. Even my kindergarten niece, who's a Novi Community School District student, got an Aza Bot for Christmas from her coding aunt, and she's doing it as a 5-year-old. So what the Osmo does, as you see in front of you, is teaches kids those problem-solving skills. How do you solve a problem using logic, reason, and breaking it down a pretty complex problem into manageable parts? And isn't that what life's about? So I'm really excited to be a part of the project, and so excited to have these 2 little kids in, 10 years from now.
Mr. O'Connor has a question.
I just was wondering, what is the demand and interest for your class?
huge.
Do we have a waiting list even?
Yes, we do. Absolutely, yes. I teach obviously 5 hours out of the day, and those are all at max right now. And they've had to prioritize.
Are you with 25, 30?
Yeah. Oh no, 30 and at least each.
Oh really?
A little bit over in a couple. Yeah.
Oh.
But we're at max, and then the cool thing is the way they prioritize for the upper level kids first, but. Yes, I started teaching actually as a social studies teacher, and I have since been moved to teaching in my other degree in computer science, and we have full classes, all 5, and they usually say about like a 40 or 50 kid waiting list per year. Yeah.
I think it's important to note that she is probably, I think, one of 455 teachers that have the degree, which is the demand that she speaks of, not only in the industry, but also to get teachers interested into coming into the fold as well. It's a very, very difficult certification to find. So we are so lucky to have her certification and her teaching it.
1 in 444 of what?
Our teachers. I think she's the only one. There might be one other teacher who is certified to teach us in our district.
Gotcha.
They're very difficult to find,
I
teachers with this certification.
Right, and I had the privilege early on in the school year to travel to the elementaries and the middle school to see what they're doing, and I just cannot wait to get those kids because what they're doing with the Osmo as Aza Bot as Ms. Matson was talking about is exactly the problem-solving skills that and logical thinking skills that you all are doing in front of you. Is exactly the prerequisite for the class. Is exactly the thinking that I want them to do. Because I don't expect all my students to become computer scientists, although a lot of them do. But I think that the problem-solving skills that they learn in my course serve them well in any profession that they go into. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Franchi. We have another dot and dash robots, which maybe you've seen as well. Again, coding, problem solving, curiosity. All of these words that Ms. Matson and Ms. Franchi used are things that our kids are experiencing kindergarten through 4th grade. These Explore kits are further examples. We have these seated at the middle school, Tesla kits, so on. On the right is something that maybe you've seen a little bit about, which is virtual reality, the goggles, right? That you'll see people wearing or gaming with. But really, this is Google Cardboard's version of it. And we have these in our district right now, and you simply drop your smartphone into it, and you go and enter a VR world. And so this is happening in Novi today. So activation, kindergarten through 4th grade. We're thinking these curiosity kits do 3 things for us. It's a collection of low and high-tech items that engender design, engineering, art, and dreaming. The Dremel 3D printer is the anchor of each kit. Combining forces with Autodesk has also proven to be a powerful synergy for us. We've actually had members of Autodesk come to our district about 10 times this year to teach our media specialists how to engage in Tinkercad, as well as going to the high school to teach one of our teachers there, Mr. Phil Scabo, and how to use much of the CAD software. And number 3, these kits have proven to be an unmitigated success. We believe the concept is utterly replicable. We met with elementary principals a couple days ago, and one of the requests that an elementary principal had was more of this. Relationships with media specialists and the kids. When I talk to the media specialists, they say that the engagement level in there has increased and been really good. Ms. Murphy?
Principals in our district?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Our elementary principals.
Great. Thank you.
So here's some pictures, and these folks that you see around here we'll talk about, but you met Kristin, she's in the left-hand side, you see that. But the 4 gentlemen who are being shown our Seesaw platform by our kids represent Bosch, North America, and we had a visit on November 18th from folks from Bosch representing about $24 billion worth of revenue a year, the folks who were with us that day. It was wonderful. We had a fantastic day with them. You take a look here, we have the Novi Woods Media Center, and who's teaching our adults? The kids are teaching the adults. We have a parent in the crowd tonight, Mr. Dewan Woods, who's a parent in our district. He was there that day, he participated in the event, and you can see engagement, engagement, engagement. So now that's the K4 piece. I'd like to pause for a second. Anybody have any questions on the K4 end of things?
I'm just going to make another comment. been fortunate enough to step into the media centers when some of this activity has been going on. Particularly the Aza Bot that demonstrated here, and the kids just loved picking up and learning how to code those, because as the Aza code says, you can make it do many things, and the teacher of the day, had them draw their own lines, had them put their own codes on there, had them do their own thing, and it wasn't just one kid drawing on a piece of paper. It was the table full of kids taping their paper together, trying to get it all over the place.
Awesome.
The kids just love it. My only question is, because we put them in the media centers, how has that affected our reading and our reading?
Well, I mean, from a short-term perspective, our reading scores are still some of the tops in the county. The piece that we have the rotation going on, oftentimes you'll have to double up on it. So, for instance, your student may have the media center twice in a week, depending on how the rotation goes. I haven't heard one complaint or one concern from the professionals who staff those places saying they're concerned about it.
Okay.
Let's go to 5.8. So as we look at 5.8, we're thinking of it in a way, and what you're going to see right now, so what I've shown you is the what is. We'll show you a little bit more of what is. The 7 through 12 is really a thought experiment. Where could we go with this? What is possible? And want to share with the board and the community some things that we've been thinking about. So we've engaged some thought partners. I'm going to show you some of the folks we've been working with. And the idea is to create perhaps a segment of design courses or design modules that would go into 7th and 8th grade around things like design, engineering, art, and business. So as we look at this is our Novi Meadows Makerspace. So this did not exist last June. This did not exist last June. Give you a little bit of a story on this when we hit our timelines, but what do we have again? Kids teaching us. If you look in the upper right-hand corner of this screen, you're going to see Tinkercad is displayed on the screen. That is a table that our 5th graders designed, and 3D printed. Applying math standards from the Common Core to do it. Right here we have a picture of, again, Principal Bricky, who just got back from a course that we'll talk about at MIT. These folks are engaged. The kids had them engaged. And this, again, is in our 5th grade media center. Here's Principal Fetal talking about what's in front of them is called a challenge. So there are these rotating challenges where the kids are given things like tongue depressors, spoons, ping pong balls, rubber bands to make whatever they want to make. Do they want to make a game? Do they want to see how far the ping pong ball can go? They can do whatever they want, whatever they dream up. What Mr. Cook just said, how these kids link the pieces of paper together, is exactly why we don't believe having a set curriculum in K through 6 makes a lot of sense. What we believe is exposure to these opportunities for the kids is what makes sense, and I'll allow them to solve the problems. Again, our kids holding court. I mean, here's 3 guys that are responsible for just huge bits of corporation, and they are absolutely enamored. What you can't see really closely is failure. In the foreground of this picture are 6 different tries that these kids made to build one table on a 3D printer. And what they tried to do is they tried to build it the way we all might. They tried to build it tabletop and then legs. But it wouldn't work. It couldn't hold the weight. It wouldn't print that way. It took them until their 6th try to realize, well, maybe if we print it upside down where the table's actually on the bottom, the tabletop, and the legs come up, it'll work. And it worked. 5th graders. Here, Harmon last January donated $10,000 to our Novi Educational Foundation to help us with STEM-related activities. Harmon owns JBL. Harmon does a ton with audio. The thinking I had was, what if we put this in the hands of our choir teacher, as well as some other folks in there, and we asked them what would make sense. So what happened then is we came up with a audio creator lab. So in this space, we're teaching our kids how to do podcasting as well as video. So again, 5th and 6th grade, teaching the basic skills of things like podcasting, so audio, as well as video on that piece of it. And that's what's going to happen in that space, and we're continuing to build toward that. Terribly exciting. So here we talk about some of these partners that we've engaged with. And this is really the idea of creating a course by unnatural alliances. And what does unnatural alliance mean? So I was fortunate enough to attend a Bosch Connected World event where on the stage I saw CEO of General Electric and the CEO of Bosch. Now, I grew up outside of Lansing, Michigan, GM country. There is no way that I would have ever thought that I would see Honda and Ford on the same stage, or Bosch and GE on the same stage, saying we are here to solve global problems. What you see in front of you is a course created by the Unnatural Alliance of course, the Novi Community School District, but also Kettering University, Bosch, Autodesk, the Industrial Design Society of America, the American Institute of Architects, as we look at how space impacts the work that we do with our kids in these makerspaces and so on. And in the lower right-hand corner, the College of Creative Studies in Detroit, one of the foremost creative design studios for auto design in the world. All of these folks have committed to working with us to help us build a course or modules in the middle school. Again, just thinking out loud. So, take a look at this. This is going to spin through different advocates and allies we have. So what you saw there was an event that I went to at the Industrial Design Society of America Idea of 2016 Awards, and it was actually at the Henry Ford. So I was spinning through my phone, and I saw these pictures that I took through the entire event, and that's where I got introduced to the Suncubator and what that was. That's where I got introduced to designers from around the world who are winning awards for their inventions. And as I was going through there, I saw this quote from Dr. King, and I thought, really, what we're engendering to do K-12 is to provide opportunities for our kids to use their authentic voice, whatever that might be. And that may not be reading or writing or math in a way that we would think in a typical construct. It might be making. It may be creating something and finding their voice. So now let's go to 9-12. In the 9-12 segment, yep.
Can you
hands, yep.
So before we go to 9-12, could you give me a little more clarity on what this is, building a course with these unnatural alliances? Is this for 7th grade, 8th grade? Is it one course? Is it a curriculum? What's the direction?
Yeah, so the thought process we have here, and really have done a lot of talking with the College of Creative Studies and their provost, Sushin Choi, is to look at creating a 15-module course that has design, engineering, art, and business in it that could be injected into our middle school electives packages. So talking with Principal Schreiner, she could see this fitting in all of our elective packages. And I want to preface all of this with saying, this is, what are we, 8 months into it, guys? 9 months into it? So these are the connections you're going to see, Mr. O'Connor, when the timeline comes through. But the idea is to create, before kids get to high school, that they have an opportunity to think about what kind of courses they're going to select in high school by getting some exposure to these high-demand type of fields. For instance, industrial design. Michigan has more industrial designers than any other state in the country. We do. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions before we move to 9 to 12? Okay.
All right, so 9-12. So now this is another concept, and I can't wait to explain it to you. So when you think about thought partners, I want you to think about thought partners in a bit different way here. The first thing I want to preface, and I presented this to the high school staff yesterday, presented this to the middle school staff today, and I could definitely see a real positive reaction when I explain this one point, so let me start here. We already have, as I mentioned, Miss Franchi teaches at least 15 of our robotics kids in coding in classes we already have. The B-STEAM Academy concept is not the addition of a tremendous amount of more classes. Instead, it's a capstone experience in a student's senior year that I'm going to share with you that Ms. Digley has already reached out to Brian Whiston, the Michigan Department of Education, to begin a conversation of how we have more flexibility within the Michigan Merit curriculum to provide a potential capstone course. So when we look at this B-STEAM Academy, I don't want us to think of it as, oh my gosh, we have a ton of different courses. We're plugging what we already have in. What does B-STEAM stand for? Business, science, technology, engineering, art, math, and medicine. All those pieces. And you may say, gosh, Dr. Weber, that sounds like pretty much everything. Exactly. What we want to do is highlight the opportunity for each of our kids to go towards something, whether you're an artist or a business person or an engineer. We want to give you a chance in your senior experience. It's not pigeonholed to science, technology, engineering, or math. Because what we know today is lateral thinkers who can do a bit of everything are the people who are in demand. Most of our kids are not going to work for the same place their entire life. How can we teach kids, if you will, to dance? And we do that with a broad experience. So, here's the traditional STEM. I love this graphic. Ms. Franchi's responsible for this one. Oh, nope, let's push the M out a little bit right there. Let's bring in the business. Let's bring in the art. And, of course, the medicine. We are so fortunate to have Providence Park Hospital System here. We've had a long relationship with their Partners in Excellence program. And I had the good fortune of meeting with President Hershey a little bit ago. What people may not know is Providence is the teaching hospital for Michigan State University School of Medicine. Talking to the president of Providence Park, he was very, very interested in having even more exposure in the Novi Community School District and getting more exposure for our kids. So exceptionally grateful for that. Our art piece, Ms. Diglio, we have 3 full-time art teachers at the high school.
Yep.
And all of those classes are robust and full, I believe. From a business standpoint, we have fantastic business classes. As a matter of fact, we had 50 business students go to National Food Group just 2 days ago, $113 million year company here in Novi. The questions from a business perspective that they were asking the president of that company would blow your mind. What our teachers are doing for and with our kids to help them get there, Mr. Barr, I'm going to tell you right now, if you were there, you would have been clapping. The business question, they were putting him on the spot. It was absolutely fantastic. This is what I'd like you to think about. If you look at the screen as a board, every spoke, if you will, that goes off that suncubator, is there one spoke that you can see that you could not apply to the suncubator concept? There's not. It fulfills art. What's the material? What's the color? Would you want to put your child in it? It fulfills medicine, obviously. What temperature do we need to keep our kids at? The technology. How do you find and develop a substance that can retain heat through an entire night? How does that even work? From a business model standpoint, what kind of scalability do you need to really get this into the hands of people to make it work? Who's going to fund it? How are you going to market it? How are you going to get it there? From an engineering standpoint, how do you make these for a cost and a premium that doesn't cost too much money? It goes on and on. I want you to keep that image in your head as we talk about what that could look like with the B-STEAM Academy concept. Let's go back to it. So imagine a senior year experience, which we call an open channel experience. Ms. Franchi provided a bit of a slideshow that I'm going to show you in a sec that's amazing, that will take you through it. But imagine a room of 20 to 25 kids in their senior year. They have an entire year to go through and come up with something like this as a team, as a moonshot project out of our high school. We know we have kids who can do it. We know we do. I've seen first graders already who are coding. So we'll share that in a second. But if you take a look at some of the pictures, back here you might notice this is another room that our robotics team has full use of on Saturdays and uses almost every night of the week. It's part of our 15,000 square feet of space, right, Mr. Barr? About 15,000? Correct. So of square feet of space that is in the back of our high school. What you have there are people taking notes. Dewan is in there. You also have people from Bosch on things that we could do to make that space even better for our kids. A vision that we could have is creating a global makerspace in that particular room that our robotics team could use at night. Mr. Barr had the idea of, well, if we did that, RJ, how about opening it up in the afternoon and staffing it so people could actually come in and use that makerspace and get exposed to it. The B-STEAM Academy kids could do low-res prototyping there. Ms. Diglio, when we were working on this, said, you know, what if we opened it up the rest of the day and any teacher could sign that space out? And we thought, oh my gosh, yeah, we have ELA teachers who would actually have their kids go in there and make things within there. So as we have that, these gentlemen were back there giving their critical eye to that space. Pretty amazing to have that kind of brain power and horsepower in that room helping us think through it for free. We can go on and on about our kids, and I will tonight. So here we have students who are winners of the North American International Auto Show. These are their posters. There's Miss Melissa Edmonds, graphic arts teacher at our high school, who helps to develop and water these ideas for the kids, that turns them into opportunities. This piece right here, the young man on the left, who is this? Do we know? Oh, okay. He just held court. It was amazing. Getting those guys out of that room was near impossible. They were absolutely blown away by the work that our kids were doing. And it always feels good to show that off. Here we have an art class where our kids are making jewelry. They're soldering, they're welding, they're working with their hands. Again, we have the head of Bosch's HR in North America. We have people from Dremel there heading up all of Dremel Power Tools, watching this, asking questions. We have a parent. So here is the part that, so this B-STEAM stuff might seem a little bit confusing, but this is what it would be if you were a student. So let's say, for instance, you have a son or daughter. They get to their senior year and they say, you know what, rather than doing a full science credit, I want to try to enter and get into this B-STEAM Academy. And I want to make something. And this is what their year would look like. So in September, this is where the ideation comes from. They start to create their idea. What is it that they're going to want to pursue for 180 hours in school? And any of you have ever worked on a passion project, and I know this for Ms. Franchi and Ms. Matson, I look at Mr. Barr, I look at Ms. Diglio. Whenever we hold on to something that we really love, you're willing to get together on a Saturday to work for 6 hours because it means and it speaks to you. So while these kids would have 180 hours to be guided by teachers through their projects, they would also have time, obviously, outside of school. And remember, each kid in the B-STEAM Academy would be paired with a critical friend from industry or education. So if, for instance, Ms. Hood was going to work on a business project, she would be partnered with a professor from the Ross School of Business at U of M. And that person would meet with you about 4 times a year to critique your work, give you feedback on your work and what you're doing. So you're a senior in high school, and you get feedback from somebody from the Ross School of Business on a project you're making. All of a sudden, Ms. Hood says, well, wait a second, Mr. Mena, you're designing a line of handbags, and your particular mentor is the head of fashion design at CCS. All of a sudden, Ms. Hood and Mr. Mena are working together. Ms. Hood is working to help Mr. Mena sell his product. And doing all the market research and all those pieces, we give the kids a portfolio to emerge from our high school web. So in October and November, the teacher would be teaching about project management. I know Mr. Cook does a lot with project management, having to keep track of major pieces. We know there is software out there like Basecamp and Prana to help you keep up with the projects that you have, but actually teaching the kids in high school how to use that type of software. In the month of November, the B-STEAM student then develops a low-res prototype or a low-tech prototype of their idea. What does it look like? What does it feel like? And they start to show it to their friends. In December, the student will be ready to use their prototype in a presentation to their mentor, teacher, and peers in the academy. Market research will also be conducting using systematic procedures and tools, and then the student will receive and document their critical feedback. In January, we're gathering for go time. They're using their data, they're refining. February and March, it's all about making, doing, building, and getting after it. In April, they'll prepare for their product launch. The student's presentation will resemble the unveiling of a new Apple product or a pitch heard on Shark Tank. We could easily partner with a company or even the NEF to offer a monetary award for whoever wins that, to create some hype around it and to create some energy around it. This last part is the part that speaks to me the most, and this is in May. And this is the minute and the moment everybody has been working for. If the product is such, our goal, and I've been working with the U.S. Patent Office on this, we actually have our Frog Force team going to Detroit Saturday to work on a STEM day with the United States Patent Office. The Elijah McCoy Patent Office is one of the few patent offices in America, and it is in Detroit, where we would teach our kids how to have their own intellectual property portfolio. So patenting, trademarking, copywriting, trade secret are all things that we could teach our kids to do. If they come up with a beautiful idea and turn that into an opportunity, they should own it. And we can teach them how to do that. So we've met with the U.S. Patent Office 3 times. They are all on board with it and excited to be part of that. It excites me because to me it really truly honors the voice that our kids have and the ideas that they have. So if we look at the possibilities of this, you have things like the Bone Aid that came out. Oh wait, no, let's go back. It's going to spin through, right?
Yeah. One more time.
And then click on. There we go. And then stop. Oh, so there's a fetal heart monitor that somebody invented. That's a mobile imaging device. You put your arm in it and it x-rays it. You can fold it up and take it with you in the field. hey, if you like to rock out, there's a record player that's actually vertical. It's kind of cool. And then finishing up with the bone aid there. So these were all on display at the Henry Ford Museum during the conference. So again, men are mortals, so are ideas. An idea needs propagation as much as a plant needs watering. Otherwise, both will wither and die. Again, a strong K-12 community school system waters ideas, gardens, propagates, sows seeds. And through our hard work, we may never see it, our kids are able to live the lives they deserve. A little bit of information on the progress of B-STEAM. I'd like to take you through a timeline. So the initial meeting with Bosch and Dremel occurred back in April, actually. Got a cold call on buying a 3D printer. The person said they were going to come to be in the area. I invited them to my office. Fortunately, they walked out and giving us 5 printers rather than us buying one. So that was good. During that meeting, the person I met with said, as I talked to him about our district, as I talked to this person about what we believe in and what we do, talked to him about giving kids voice and providing that, he said, you have to meet our head of HR for North America, Mr. Charlie Ackerman. Mr. Ackerman then came, maybe some of you remember, we honored him that very same day, so that was June 16th. Melissa and I welcomed Mr. Ackerman in. He spent about 3 hours in our district, and it was fantastic. In June as well, I attended the ISTE conference, the largest technology conference in the country, where I built a further built a further relationship with Autodesk. That's where the person came from that's come into our district and provided great deep training for our staff. Then a chance encounter with the Industrial Design Society at Greenfield Village. I was there with my son at the Henry Ford. I see these people walking into this back room. They're dressed like architects, and they have really cool angular glasses and all that. And I'm wondering what's going on. So I look, and on their lapel they have IDSA. So I get on my smartphone and I say, what is IDSA? And it said they are the Industrial Design Society of America. Said, oh, they have a conference coming in August. So I'm thinking maybe they're planning for this conference, but they're going into this room and there's a security person outside of this door. Thinking something really cool is going on back there. So I'm with my future brother-in-law and I say, if that person leaves and goes to the bathroom, I'm going in that room, I want to see what's going on. Could you watch Ian? And he looked at me like, are you serious? I said, I'm serious. So that person left. I went into the room. I found out who was running it just by the glare that she was giving me. I introduced myself, and she said, you need to be quiet. You need to go to the back of the room. I'll be with you in a minute. And who she was a creative director at IDSA. What I'd walked into was a competition of the invention of the year. They had jurists from around the world, and people were pitching their ideas to see who would win the ultimate award. So I apologized profusely via email afterwards. She actually thought it was great and invited me to attend the IDSA International Design Excellence Award event in Dearborn, which is where I met Sushin Choi and met other designers, where I learned about the bone aid, where I learned about the Suncubator. So now we go ahead and let's flash forward to this year. It's been kind of a crazy year. So in September, I attended Bosch Connected World, which is an event with over 500 members from around the world for Bosch, and they were focusing on the Internet of Things. I was one of just a few educators. I was invited there by Bosch, learned a tremendous amount. After getting back from there, I met with Sushin Choi, who's the provost at CCS. He then invited me to attend a symposium between CCS and Kettering. So the way he described it is Sushin was the chief designer for Dean Kamen for 4 years, the inventor of the Segway. And he said designers and engineers don't really get along that well. And so his idea was to create a day where Kettering and CCS got together so they could see what they do and how their work could complement each other. So I spent a day there. We then, back in July, if I go back, Charlie Ackerman called me and said, RJ, the idea that you're talking about sounds great. Would you be willing to host, if I was able to get some heads of divisions in Novi, would you be willing to host them? So on November 18th, Melissa Matson and Kristin Franchi put together an absolutely epic day. And we had Bosch executives from all over the country come in for an entire day. Sushin Choi was there. Dewan Woods, a parent, was there to observe and tour and discuss this concept of B-STEAM. That day ended in such a way, Carol was there, Steve Barr was there, where these people sat in this room and said that was one of the very best days they've ever had in their professional life. We take it for granted what we do here. I said this at the last board meeting. We take it for granted the kids we work with and who we serve. But when you hear it from people who are responsible for what they're responsible for and they see the beauty of what's going on here, it was fantastic.
Then, the people here from Bosch, you might minimize it, were presidents of divisions.
You're the business guy. Tell us what that means.
They were presidents and vice presidents. These weren't salespeople. They were presidents of various divisions. It's amazing. Multi-billion-dollar divisions. Security. We ended up learning things from them on security. So when we put our security bid together recently, you'll see coming up in 12 weeks, we learned things from them. So it was pretty neat.
We had the head of, I believe, HVAC, a rotary tool, and all of HR as well. And thanks for saying that, Mr. Barr. That was really fantastic. Then we took this concept to our staff, and we spent a day with a number of high school staff, administration, and teachers talking about this B-STEAM Academy concept at the Village Workshop in Northville. Another fantastic day that I have to give a tremendous amount of credit to Ms. Matson and Ms. Franchi for helping us to execute. In January, Ms. Franchi and I attended the Detroit Regional Chamber of Commerce Town Hall meeting. It was fantastic. It was leaders of business. It was put on by the Detroit Regional Chamber of Commerce. Ms. Franchi and I were there representing education. At that point, I was approached after speaking up and giving a few words by a contact from the Society of Manufacturing Engineers. She invited me to her office. She'll be in the district for the day on March 14th. They represent manufacturers all over the entire country. They are deeply interested in what we're doing in Novi, deeply interested in our K-12 concept and our B-STEAM concept, and want to have a seat at the table as this goes on. The next day, just prior to that, Mr. Ackerman called me and said, "Are you going to the first robotics announcement in Detroit?" And I said, "Gosh, I didn't realize that was even going on." And he said, "Well, it'd be great if I could see you there." So I contacted the folks at our robotics team, and we had Frog Force there, Black Frogs, Techno Tadpoles, like Novi was on display. It was a thing of beauty. And I was fortunate that they were able to get a ticket. I went and hung out with Mr. Ackerman and got to talk to him. And Dean Kamen was there, the governor was there, so it was really nice to be in that venue and to see our kids just absolutely doing wonderful things. We then visited Bosch in a place called UI Labs, which brings universities and industry together to build something better and bigger. That was a fantastic opportunity to get to learn more about Bosch and to have UI Labs be a neutral convener to help us do some work with Bosch. Finally, John Bricky, our principal at Novi Meadows 5, just attended a Makerspace conference at MIT. He was there for 3 days. I asked him if we were on the right track with what we're doing, and he said, "Oh yes, we are on the right track." And it was fantastic, and started to get some more materials that we might need. So what happens to an idea? Well, it depends. This is such an important quote because it goes back to who we are as a community public school district. 6,500 kids go here. We serve each of them. That brings me more pride than anything I can think of or even imagine in the fact that this is the way every student is served in our community. So what happens to an idea though when left unwatered? We know that ideas are equal. That ideas here in Novi amongst all 6,500 of our kids, ideas are equal. We know that ideas are equal around the world, but we also know that opportunities are not. How do we create a system that engenders these ideas to become opportunities? Do we create a class? Or do we create a K-12 approach to what we do to bring that to as many kids as possible? Is there room for something like a B-STEAM course? I think if Carol and Brian Whiston get together, I think that we could also be the tip of the spear on that. However, focusing simply on a course or a piece, I think, is missing the mark. And by doing it the way we're doing it, where K through 6, every kid gets a touch of it, and possibly 7 and 8, and using existing courses in 9, 12, is really where it is. So, I'd like to conclude tonight really by finishing on this particular quote. Eventually everything connects. People, ideas, and objects. I'd like to sincerely thank Ms. Madsen, Ms. Franchi, Mr. Barr, Ms. Giglio, so many people who have helped push on this, think through this. Mr. Cook for helping me learn how to make a brush bot. I went out for a run that night and I just started to think how the experience that I had in my office with a pair of snips, a battery, some wire, a pager motor, And I thought to myself, why is a 45-year-old man, I'm just having this experience right now, how can we have this experience get to each of our kids, right? And it's amazing what kind of things can happen when you're willing to connect with people, ideas, and objects from industry, from education, from wherever it might be. So that's it. Mr. Barr.
RJ's pretty humble. The four of us have had a good time riding his coattails on this. Ms. Franchi is the one that put this amazing PowerPoint together. When we've been kind of involved in this since, May 21st, we had the meeting with robotics in here?
Yeah.
And it wasn't backup generated, but it was part of the timeline. And we started putting those slides together, and the one that showed the businesses, the unnatural alliances, and then the one with the timelines, I started laughing. Because I said, do you realize how much has been accomplished in just so few months? A few months. You had one tweet that starts with. I mean, it's crazy. How does this happen? These businesses and organizations are as interested to work with us, if not more, than we are to work with them. It's not just to make money. Everyone wants to make some money. But they see there's a shortage, right, Kristin, and 1 million positions eventually. They need people too. Look at Governor Snyder. He's pushing career technical education. The budget we talked about a couple weeks ago has potential money for career technical education equipment. It's obvious there's skilled trade shortages, there's coding shortages. And to see what's going on, that Dr. Weber's put together in such a short period of time, and the contacts he's made, I just kind of laugh and chuckle sometimes going, how did this come together so fast? And there's still a lot of work to do, but I'll tell you, it's quite amazing.
I'm anticipating the board might have a few questions, so if that's okay, Mr. Weber.
I'm transitioning back to now acting superintendent, so
Okay,
feel
thank
free.
you.
I'm also
Thank you.
assistant superintendent of academics, so ask away.
Mrs. Stevenson.
I do have a few questions.
Yes.
You were indicating that B-STEM Academy, is that just for seniors? And if so, is there an application process? How are students going to be selected, and how many students will be allowed to be in the program?
So we're in the ideation phase of it right now. The initial thought is that it's a senior level open channel experience for kids. One of the really critical moments in this journey also came when Melissa Matson came in my office and said, RJ, the more I think about this, how do we make sure that something like this is open to as many kids with as many backgrounds as possible? How does this not become something that's for an elite segment, if you will, but instead has access to as many kids as possible who might be interested? So these are the type of people that we serve beside. That was her first question to me. She said, there's something about this idea that's bothering me. And she came into my office and said, this is what's bothering me. And I said, yeah, that makes sense. So what I'll say, Ms. Stevenson, is that we put this out in front of the high school staff yesterday, the middle school staff today. We've worked on this with a number of people at the high school. We're putting this in front of the board tonight. My hope is that we can get people around this table and around other tables to help us think through this. When we've pitched this idea for places and all the unnatural alliances that we showed you, from SME to Bosch to CCS and so on, people are absolutely enthralled by this concept and what it can do for our kids to help prepare them. See, the reason that industry really loves this as well is what Ms. Franchi said. We have such a shortage of talent going into industry. You hear our governor talk about it all the time and what's needed. Wouldn't it be amazing if somehow the Novi Community School District became that school district that was able to provide kids opportunities right out of high school in things like coding, artificial intelligence, other pieces like that? Maybe they take a gap year before they go to university. Maybe they don't even need to go to university. I mean, I hear stories, I've been talking to people from Google, that there are jobs for people who know how to code and go into AI. You don't need to go to college. If you have these skill sets and you emerge with those skill sets, you can get there. So my answer to you is, we need the community's help in thinking through this. We have parents tonight in the crowd who came here tonight because they're interested in what this could mean for their own children as they come up through the system. I hope we get feedback from our parents as well, as far as how this could work and how it could fit.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Other questions from the board? Mr. O'Connor.
Mr. Breyer, you had mentioned the May 21st workshop that we had with the various robotics teams. Have we run these concepts past them to see if it's meeting their needs?
So I actually last spring met with a student and an adult mentor. I was asked to help them with a project they were working on, so they asked me to come to the high school and have an interview with them that they were using for, I believe, the Governor's Award. So I sat down with them. They said, well, what are you thinking about in the future? And I said, well, this is just an idea. This is something we're thinking about. They'd heard about the B-STEAM concept through talking with them when my son and I went on a Saturday, and they were in, 8 or 9 rooms using the whole back end of the high school. Their own needs and what they have, and I've been very consistent in this from the beginning, Mr. O'Connor, is the fact that our job is to provide opportunities for as many kids as possible. We believe that the way we're restructuring some of our classes at the high school provides some of those robotic needs. Now, Mr. Barr talked about, I got some feedback coming. Yeah, Mr. Barr talked about a practice area that could happen in the area that you saw the people from Bosch. So we wanted to share that thinking a little bit.
Well, before we go there, did you run this systematic approach with those robotic parents?
No.
Did they get any feedback?
No.
Okay.
The systematic approach that I've been with them many times, I haven't received
Okay.
return feedback from them. Maybe if they could send a communication on that, I know I would certainly appreciate some direct communication or some direct feedback from them around what they're feeling with this. But the kids that you saw the video with, Mr. O'Connor, were robotics kids that I met going in there on a Saturday to sit and work with them. So I'm more than happy to hear what interest groups might want to see out of our program. I'm always keen in my role to make sure that we have many interest groups as well who might be interested in other courses or how we can meet their needs, whether it's dance programs or athletic programs and so on. How do we create that broad approach that gets there? And you look at our commitment to our robotics program, again, I'll say it, and I said it a bunch of times, when you walk into our high school on a Saturday, wow. The kids.
Have you, just out of curiosity, have you thought about reaching out to them since they reached out to us at that May 21st?
Oh, I've been with them actually before the May 21st. I met with one of the boys in the video and an adult mentor from the robotics team. Spent time with them when they interviewed me, talked to them at Detroit at Kobo, and continue to have that communication. So that communication is definitely a two-way street. And I think going there on a Saturday to spend time with them gives also ample opportunity to get feedback. And always happy to receive any kind of formal email or communication directly so I can interact with them.
But I think it's appropriate to share with the board before we start sharing it with other members of the community. It's partially why we're doing this tonight.
Oh, makes sense, yeah. Yeah.
Additional questions? Mr. Meadows?
Yeah, well, great presentation.
Thank you.
I guess I look at this more as a framework, sort of as an idea to
Right.
build as to what maybe a curriculum would look like. My challenge to you is two things. One, probably very easy for you because I know you're really good at this, is to come up with an elevator pitch for this idea. But also, as you go along, to think to yourself and to be able to answer the question as you're explaining this to future potential district parents, why Novi schools? Hopefully this will answer a question for them. When you have somebody coming up to you, and I'm sure from time to time you do, why should I bring my kid to Novi school? Or why should I continue to have my kid go on to the high school and not send them to this blue school down the street? So I'm hoping that you'll be able to have a cohesive message to go along with this particular program.
Well, first, thank you for the complimentary of the presentation. It's a privilege to be here. For myself and so many of us who work here, our kids are just... I showed the video today at the middle school, Mr. Mena, and about a third of the room was crying because those kids on that video were kids that went through that middle school and they saw what was occurring. So first off, that's fantastic. But to answer your second question, we didn't meet. I didn't give you a $5 bill, did I, before this meeting? No. Okay, there's nothing like that. Just want to be very transparent. A high school teacher emailed me this morning and did the presentation to the high school, and she said she went home last night and said to her husband, we need to move to Novi. Why? Because what she saw yesterday and what you saw tonight. She said she wants her kids to have those opportunities, K through 12, that our kids already have and may have. And so how do we capture that essence? How do we do that in an elevator pitch? Exactly. I think one of the ways we do it is we let our kids speak for us. The video that we showed was 3 minutes. We intentionally made it 3 minutes in length so it could be shared out there to say these are the opportunities that we provide within our system. And when the teachers at the high school and middle school saw that we have kindergartners through fourth graders doing this work, I think that really hit them. And they said, wow, they're able to do this all the time. So I think that the second part of your question, the feedback that we're starting to receive from some of our own staff is very compelling. How do we put that in an audio or video format that we can get it to more people and that we have more people who know what's going on, which is why I presented to 120 teachers yesterday and 80 today and the millions who watch our broadcasts here and the people around the board table tonight.
I mean, even at the ECEC, there are times where you have a captive audience of parents there. I remember one night we were there for a sign-up night, and that would be a great opportunity, and maybe not today, right? Certainly this is still at a very high level stage, but from what I see, it looks like obviously great potential. But I think parents at that age would like to know, hey, the ECEC to them may, at this point, I don't know they're thinking because I don't have kids that young anymore, maybe just, hey, this is a great place for an early child care center. But what's after this? I think somebody needs to share a vision with them, what it means for them to continue on in Novi Community School District.
I think the ECEC point is a great one because we could actually show them what we already have. The first part of the presentation is already what's happening. So their kids going into kindergarten will experience the coding, will experience the Kiva planes that you have in front of you. So I think that's a fantastic idea, and I'm not sure if there are particular nights or events where we have all the parents at the ECEC there, but to me that makes a tremendous amount of sense.
And I think, Mr. Nana, to follow that is, we've talked about this as a high school. How many districts can you say that after school at 2 o'clock, instead of the kids going home doing something else, that they can go to a public library down the hall, on the same campus, they can go to a fitness room for between 2 and 6, by the way, no charge, just go there your student. Or possibly you can go down to this Makerspace, robotic space, call it what you want space, with either a teacher or a Kristin Franchi or a mentor from one of these companies. So who else can say they can do that? So absolutely you can market that heck out of it.
And that's right. And again, my recollection is that's one of the reasons we as a board, I believe, felt the need to hire a communication marketing person for this. We got a lot of great things we do in this district and a lot of great things that many people don't know about. Heck, even as a board member, you'll be surprised how often I am surprised about new and innovative things that our students are doing. So, that's something, that's my challenge anyway to administration, is to find out ways to continuously answer the question, why Novi schools, to not only community members but also potential families that would consider coming to the district. Thank you.
Mrs. Stevenson.
I appreciate all that you're doing here at the district. I truly do. And I love the fact that it's going K through 8. My concern right now is the high school students. And how are you going to recruit them and encourage them to get involved? For those low achiever students that haven't had that opportunity to get involved in that program right now, how are you going to enhance them or encourage them to say, hey, you're able to do this. Come on and do that. Because I feel that some of our students don't feel they're capable of doing that and feel like it is for the elite students. So just to throw out some, hey, this is what we need to look at. And I appreciate you saying about the other students. I truly do. And that's my passion about those low achiever students or those ones that are right on the bubble that we don't focus on. So just make sure that, it's great to talk to the parents, but when they're in high school, they don't listen to us parents. So I'm just going to be real. I mean, you have to encourage them and get them interested in doing that, because they're not going to come out and say, oh, this is something I want to do. But some of our students are not. I mean, we have to be realistic. Yes, it's great that a lot of our students go off to college, but some of our students might not be those college-bound students, and they need those trades and those skills, and they want to know that there's something out there for them.
And that's the design challenge that we all have, is how to create that, right? And the piece is, if you remember the science presentation we had, the science department was one of the first departments to get rid of prereqs. So prerequisites, not necessary in science. And the message that we intended to send with that was, whoever you are, if you have it in you and you want to try it, we want you to do that. And as Ms. Franchi talked about having, when I went back and Ian and I went back in that room to see the kids that were coding the robot, the giant robot, right? Ms. Franchi has at least 15 of those kids who are directly working on that within her piece. We have the courses there, but you're exactly right. How do we get our kids to believe in themselves and see a future that they might not be able to see for themselves yet? And that really is our job. Why was the quote about watering and propagating up there as often as it was? It was an intentional teaching move on my team's part because we want us to think about that daily task that we have of watering, of weeding, of feeding, of leading, and those pieces that we have to do.
I think a big part of this, if you look at the wheel and you think about the students that you're concerned, and we are all concerned about, a lot of our kids that are at risk or on the bubble come to school because of their elective courses.
Mm-hmm.
And when you look at that wheel and you look at what it's bringing back, to me, is my hope is to take some of our elective courses off life support and breathe new life into them and have more kids be willing to go in to our elective courses because it's going to lead to other things. The very notion of this whole presentation starts with ideas are equal but opportunity are not. We look at that, we can look at that at our immediate community, across the state, or across the country. Right now, when we look at our immediate community, you're right, not everyone is going to go on to a four-year college, nor should they have to. These are jobs that we can teach in high school that they can walk out and get jobs immediately. And we need to look at that more, and that's what this does. It will help kids. And we want, if we look at capstone, we would love kids to work together. Some kids are skilled better with their hands. Some kids might have that business side of them. We want to marry those kids together and have them work and use each other's strengths. So this, I think, if anything, levels that playing ground and breathes new life into, which is why we want to look at the Michigan Merit curriculum and do some pushback at the state level so that we can take some of those barriers down and open up choice more. Because you know how it is as a counselor. Kids are very pigeonholed into what they have to take, right? And so we want to take down some of those barriers. And that's what it's about.
All right, does anybody else have additional questions? Mr. Cook.
I just have a quick one. You mentioned industrial advisors and mentors in the capstone course. Have you already lined up some? Commitments from some? From the College of Creative Studies, but one of the things that really drew Bosch into this is the idea of how do they create a pipeline of talent to come into the industry. And so when we were talking and this idea of mentors and creating mentors for our kids, Bosch has said that they would love to get mentors. We live and work in an area in Southeast Michigan. I think of Ford Motor Company. I think of Chrysler Fiat. I think of GM. That when Ms. Franchi and I were at the Detroit Regional Chamber of Commerce and talking to them, and what we heard they need is that they are chomping at the bit to provide mentors to the kids, but there's not a great mechanism to do it. So that's, again, a need that I think we can fill, is to find that mechanism for it. One other quick thing. And it's great that we're getting kids coding young, even just with colors or with icon-based coding, and then getting them up into the Javas and the likes of that. But one of the things that I see in the industry that we're missing quite a bit is the logic and the and/ors and what happens there. I spent the last 2 days troubleshooting a industrial robot that if one of our guys would have had a little more logic background and controls background, and the code is a very small portion of that. And in what we've seen here, that's the portion I think is still missing out of this. And being able to put together the systems and the control systems and get them to function. So it's just one observation that I've seen of this.
Thanks. Okay, well, I do love the passion and enthusiasm. It almost makes me want to have more children to go through Novi schools, but I think that ship has sailed. But I do want to say that your passion for it and your enthusiasm for it is obvious. The fact that you guys have, worked together to bring this in, and the chance encounters that you've had there's really no way to quite understand that, except that fortune has smiled, I think, on us in some respects. So obviously this is probably going to be an ongoing conversation. I know that, I don't know if you're thinking about kind of piloting it to a certain extent. I know that we've done that with other things before, or if that's been part of the dialogue, but
right now we're working on our own project management and starting backwards and going toward it. So looking at whether it's the modules that we could provide at the middle school, the actual B-STEAM experience for our high school kids, analyzing, and Dr. Matthews I know has updated you all on how we analyze what we currently have at the high school. We're looking at pieces of looking at servos and other control options like that, electronics. And so we're going to need the board's help and the community's help. And one of the things that we'd love to do is to hear from parents who are looking at this from really that broad lens of providing that opportunity for lateral thinking. There are always groups that would like us to add particular classes or particular sports. As board members, you all know that, I'm sure, as you're in the community. I know Carol does. I know Steve knows the fact that people would like this class or that club or this sport. And we appreciate that, but our job is to balance that out in such a way to provide opportunities for as many kids as possible, as well as to provide opportunities for those folks who are interested in more particular pieces, but balancing that out with budget, time, Michigan merit curriculum, as Carol said, and so on.
Mm-hmm. Right. Well, I will certainly look forward to future dialogue about it. I'm guessing that will come back to us at some point. I'm going to suggest maybe that we take about a 10-minute break and we reconvene at about 8:35.
Okay.
So we will be taking a break right now to let people regroup and take care of things. Okay.
Got that right.
Okay, and we are back. Next, we have our consent agenda. We just have three items on our consent agenda: the approval of the minutes from our February 16th regular meeting, the approval of the check register for January, and our P-card report for December 1st, along with the field trip. So I would like to entertain a motion.
I move that the Novi Community School Board of Education accept consent items A, B, and C as presented.
Is there any discussion? Support? It's been moved by Mrs. Stevenson and supported by Mr. Cook. Is there discussion on any of those items? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 6-0. All right, and then the next item on our agenda is our action items. We have a roofing bid package. I will turn to you, Dr. Weber.
And I will turn to Mr. Bosch.
Thank you. On to the exciting part of the agenda tonight is the roofing bid package number 4. This is the second reading. We received this about weeks ago. Competitive bids were received in your packet are the bid tabulation and the recommendation to award this to J.D. Canlin Roofing in the amount of $999,960. This is work that will be performed this spring and summer at Novi High School, Parkview Elementary, and some repairs at Novi Middle School.
Okay.
If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
I'd like to have a motion first, if I may. Mr. Mena?
Yeah, I move that the roofing bid be awarded to J.D. Chandler Roofing in the amount of $999,960 with the form of the contract included in the bid documents and contingent upon the contractor meeting the provisions of the bid specifications requiring delivery and surety. Further, that the Assistant Superintendent of Business and Operations be authorized to expend the funds from the capital projects funds and sinking fund.
Do I have support? Support. Okay, it's been moved by Mr. Mena and supported by Mrs. Hood. Are there further questions for Mr. Barr on our roofing bid package? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Okay, next we come to our grievance hearing. Dr. Weber?
Thank you, President Murphy. Per the Novi Educational Support Personnel Association contract, an employee has the right to appeal a grievance that was denied by the superintendent to the Board of Education. An employee has exercised that contractual right. On February 16, 2017, the Board of Education heard the appeal. Per the Novi Educational Support Personnel Association contract, the Board of Education must render a decision to accept or deny the appeal within 21 days. The decision must be made in open session. Recommendation. Option 1. The Novi Community School District Board of Education denies the appeal of Mrs. Patricia Cortland. Option 2. The Novi Community School District Board of Education accepts the appeal of Mrs. Patricia Cortland. Thank you, Ms. Murphy.
Okay, thank you. And just in order to minimize any confusion, I would like to ask the board during their comments and also the administration if they're asked for additional input to keep the dialogue focused on the grievance itself. I know last time we had some additional conversation about the contract language that guides our procedure and also the central enrollment process, but those aren't necessary material to the grievance. So if we could maybe discuss those at another time should the board like to do that. So first I'd like to entertain a motion.
I move that the Novi School District Board of Education denies the appeal of Ms. Patricia Cortland.
Okay.
Support.
It's been moved by Mrs. Cadwell and supported by Mr. O'Connor. Do we have a discussion on the items or on the grievance? Mr. O'Connor?
Yeah, I'd like to talk a little bit about this case, specifically in terms of respect, or what I perceive as really the lack of respect. You know, we teach our kids, through various anti-bullying programs how to respect one another, and we also teach our students, leaders and me, how to respect one another. And yet, after listening to the testimony on February 16th, it really seems to me that the administration really failed to show respect to the Nesbitt employees during this entire process. Now, before I go on, I want to make it very clear I supported Mrs. Stevenson's motion because I do believe the grievance should be denied for 2 reasons. Number 1, the recognition clause in the contract really is not relevant to this case. And number 2, Mrs. Cortland did not suffer financial harm. I mean, after all she was asking for was a symbolic $160. However, I do believe, as Mrs. Cortland testified, I do believe she suffered emotional harm, and really for no logical reason at all. Our administration clearly followed the letter of the contract, but in my opinion, they really failed to live up to the spirit of the contract. The solution to this dispute really seemed very simple to me as I was going through this testimony, and that's simply don't start the centralized registration process until all the employees are under the contract. That's what Mrs. Cortland requested, and it was ignored by our administration. According to the testimony, our administration started the centralized process on November 1st, but did not completely staff it with NSBA employees until January 12th. I still don't know why. I still don't know why that was done. I don't understand why our administration couldn't have waited till January 12th when we approved and rehired those NSBA employees. And all I can think of is that it was a lack of respect or profound arrogance and unappreciation for Mrs. Cortland and our NSBA employees. Now, during the testimony 2 weeks ago, Mrs. Diglio said that the reason for not staffing the centralized registration function with NSBA employees on November 1st was that there were too many parts going on at that time. I just don't buy that. I just don't buy that. In fact, I think that statement highlights how the entire process was conducted without valuing the hard work and dedication of our NSBA employees, and specifically in this case, Mrs. Cortland. My perception is that denying the symbolic request for $160 2 and now 3 times before it even got to our level sends a profound message that Mrs. Diglio dug her heels in and refused to admit a mistake. And that mistake was launching a process with non-NSBA personnel. It's kind of ironic. I almost feel like our administration sometimes picks and chooses which employees they like and they don't like. I mean, think about it. At our meeting 2 weeks ago, Mrs. Diglio recommended that our board give a full year sabbatical for a teacher and also recommended a second full year of child care leave for one of our teachers.
Keep our comments focused on the grievance.
Yeah, yes, this is the rationale for my grievance. My point is our administration now recommends denying $160 to Mrs. Cortland, even when Mrs. Diglio asked Mr. Stee in mid-November to try to use NSBA employees whenever possible for the registration process. It just seems to be ironic, and I just don't get it. I don't even get the fact that it's ironic that as our responsibility as board trustees, we have the fiduciary responsibility to community members, and yet we have spent more than $160 just preparing this case in labor and time. And I just don't get it. The case could have been simply settled without reaching the board level for $160. Yes, I'm denying the grievance based on my limited knowledge of contract law, but I must tell you, I just hope our administration shows more respect and appreciation for NSBA workers in the future.
Other comments? Mr. Meadows?
Yeah, I think a lot was just said, but I want to reiterate again that as board members, we do have a fiduciary responsibility to the district. And if there were egregious violations of the contract, I wouldn't have hesitated for 1 second to protect the district by voting to grant the grievance. But personally, I don't see this as being egregious, nor do I see this as a violation of the contract. I'm not able to find anything in the NSBA contract that says that only NSBA members can do what is generally and not expressly considered to be NSBA work. Additionally, I was really struggling with finding actual damage by the violation being alleged, and as a result, I won't be supporting the grievance. But I want it made clear to Mrs. Cortland that I do know that she feels slighted and that she feels unappreciated. I just want her to know that all NSBA members, as well as all NCSD staff, are greatly valued and appreciated by me, and I assume by the rest of this board. And I hope that we will continue to work hard to express that appreciation for all of them. So thank you.
Other comments? Mr. Cook?
Yeah, so a lot has been said. The aspect that I look at it from, comes from experience. I've had a number of grievances written against me by union employees because I am non-union, and at times I've ended up doing their work. Does their contract specifically call out that that is their work? No. Never does. They don't get that specific. Are they always awarded the time? And is the person whose job I actually did for that brief period of time actually the one being paid? No. It rarely ever is. It's usually the person walking by that says, he is doing union work there. You should have brought somebody in to do that. I may be standing next to somebody who is actually working side by side with me who is unionized, and they still end up writing the grievance because I was doing work that historically a union employee has. I look at this in the same light. Historically, union employees have done that work. The statement was made that the NESPA employee was not available at a time, and we weren't going to sacrifice community or customer service, which I agree with. But it was also stated that you should have NESPA employees to do that. And in other situations, yeah, you could have brought in NESPA employees to do that work if ahead of time. And then the thing that comes to really drove it home was when I requested the posting for the 2 employees that were turned into NESPA employees, and in there it specifically did state that that was going to be part of their job. Based on these things, I do support Mrs. Cortlandt's grievance, and I will be voting against this motion.
Any other comments? Okay, well, I do appreciate the board's careful consideration of it. I know that it was not an easy, it's the first time we've had to do this. It was not an easy thing to do. I have read and reread the contract language. I replayed the video of last week's meeting. I reviewed the paperwork, and I don't see anything in the contract language that delineates proprietary work or outlines jurisdiction over certain work for our NESPA employees. I did read the jurisdiction sections in the other 2 contracts that we have jurisdiction language in. There isn't any of that appears in Article 1 or any other place in the NESPA contract. In this instant, non-NESPA employees were used in the absence of the NESPA employee. That's correct, right, Mrs. Stiglio, that it was in the absence of one of the NESPA employees that is primarily responsible for central enrollment. There has been a past practice of using non-NESPA employees to assist with that same work, so that was an established past practice. There was no apparent harm to our NESPA employees in either workload or pay. No NESPA employee had their pay or hours reduced as a result of the shift in workload. I'm also aware of other times that our workload with them has shifted because of hiring of different employees, and school nurse came to mind as one of them, that different needs were met by her. And some of the tasks that we had charged our clerical staff with before were moved into different directions based on that, and also from the software. So again, that's establishing a past practice of altering the workload of that staff. So I would vote to deny the appeal for those reasons. So if no one else has any comments, we will vote. The motion that has been...
Could we have a roll call vote for this one, please?
Certainly. Mr. Manna?
Sure.
Roll call vote.
Trustee Cook?
I'm voting no.
Trustee Hood?
Yes.
Trustee Mena, yes. Trustee Murphy?
Yes.
Trustee O'Connor?
Yes.
Trustee Stevenson?
Yes. Okay.
Motion passed 5-1.
5-1 with Mr. Cook voting no. Okay. We will move on now. Our next item is our information and discussion. This is information and discussion. I will turn to you, Mr. Weber. Dr. Weber, excuse me.
Yes. So we are now going to school bus purchases, Mr. Barr.
Thank you. This is a report I bring to you approximately once a year to replace school buses that are aging in their life. And in this case, I'm recommending that we replace 2 school buses and actually add 1 additional school bus to our fleet, in this case a lift bus. This is the first time we've actually added a bus to our fleet in terms of totals. with buses. So in this case, we're recommending adding one additional bus in terms of a lift bus. One thing I want to walk back to real quick is before we had our bond just under 3 years ago, the average life of our bus fleet was 7 years. After these buses are replaced, if they are replaced in the next board meeting, life of our bus is, there goes someone's pacemaker. The average life of our buses is just over 3 years. So what a difference having a bond has to replace buses. When you know, before I got here, I believe 3 out of 4 years or 3 out of 5 years, we did not purchase buses. We had buses that were 9, 10, 11 years old. They were all safe. They all passed the inspections from the state every year in the fall, but they obviously require a lot of repair parts. So something like this also stays our general fund because we're not having to purchase repair parts. These buses we also started getting in the last few years with 5-year warranties. So again, another advantage to having this bond. So we're recommending the purchase of 3 buses, and this is available through the Michigan School Business Officials cooperative bid that many, many districts in the state use. And this will come back to the board on March 16th for approval.
Questions from the board? Mr. Cook?
Our lift buses, do they quite often, I know we purchase the same size bus typically. Do they run at capacity when we're running them, or are they usually just
the
5 or 6
buses are smaller than a regular bus, and they don't necessarily run at capacity because it really depends where that bus goes. We might have some kids that go to Farmington, and some students that go out to Birmingham, to possibly Waterford. So they can't run it. Sometimes they're going to have 3 or 4 children in there. And there's only, these are wheelchair students. So it's not like, where you have maybe 10 seats on a regular school bus without lifts, you might have 1 or 2 spots for wheelchairs because they're obviously all strapped in and stuff.
Yeah, just running the larger bus, because we do buy the larger bus. It's smaller than the normal bus, but it's still a large bus.
Yes.
If we consider buying the smaller bus and the cost of running that versus the cost of running the large access bus.
Right. The cost of a smaller bus is very little difference in terms of the cost compared to this bus. I can get you those numbers out.
What about cost of operating? Efficiency, the likes of that.
Right. I can check. I would tell you that the number, and we can check on that, the number of students that we get in these buses varies. Sometimes we have 3 or 4 students. Next thing you know, we have 2 new students move into the district, and that might be in wheelchairs, and maybe going to the same program in Hazel Park, for example. So I can check on that with our mechanics. They're obviously more knowledgeable about than I am.
I guess, have we also considered potentially going to hybrid or any other type of
like
propulsion? Yeah.
There was a push by the mechanics to me about 2 years ago. They went to, I think it was Roush, that's not right, Roush in Livonia, and they're pushing the propane buses. They have obviously a shorter distance they can travel. The cost of the bus is, I think, about $10,000 to $20,000 more, but that was when the gas prices were close to $4 a gallon. At this time, it doesn't really make any sense. There's a couple districts that have done it in the area, but far from their whole fleet. So at this time, we're not supporting that with the price of gas as it is. And actually, it's funny, as that was happening, when there was this push, there was actually a propane shortage. It came up like a month later. Amazingly, there's a propane shortage.
Other questions? And this will come back to us at our meeting on March 16th, correct?
Correct.
And these will be put in place for next year.
They'll be put in place for next year. We'll receive them sometime over the summer, probably.
Okay. Thank you. Next, we have our next opportunity for comments from the audience. We seem to have lost most of our audience this evening. Seeing no one come to the podium, we will move on to our Superintendent's Report. Dr. Weber.
Yes, thank you, President Murphy. The Acting Superintendent's Report. So, often sitting over on that side of the room, we don't have an opportunity to speak directly and openly to the community and the board, so this is a privilege, obviously. The Pom Pom State Championship, just a fantastic piece. I want to thank our community for supporting so many different athletic pursuits as well as clubs, and to have our kids excelling. The support of the community around our outreach with our K-12 approach to providing opportunities for kids around STEM is also deeply appreciated. And for the past number of years, I've had the privilege of working with some amazing people throughout this district. As we talked about earlier, Sheila Holly and Melissa Matson, working with them has really been a joy, as well as so many of the secretarial staff that we've worked with. It's also a joy to work with people who have the ability to serve their duties and execute their responsibilities with grace and with class. And working with people like Carol Diglio and Steve Barr and Steve Matthews has also been a real joy. There are times that difficult decisions need to be made and things need to happen in that way. I have a tremendous amount of respect for the people that I serve beside, from ECEC all the way up through our 26-year-old students that we serve in this community. And just want to say thank you, that simply. And that's it. Again, way to go, Pom Pom, and thank you tonight for keeping your attention for, what was that, about an hour-long presentation I think we had?
It was at least that long.
Your endurance was good. All right, so thank you.
All right. Terrific. Next we have our committee reports. Are there any committees that have met since we were here last time? I know that Mrs. Glebzinski is not here to report out on the Board Governance and Policy Committee, but we did, I believe the minutes were added to Board Book.
No, not yet.
Okay, well, they will be added to Board Book before our next meeting, and then we will allow her to report out at that time. I believe we have a tentative meeting maybe scheduled that week that hasn't been confirmed yet, so we'll be having another meeting maybe before the report out, but we're working hard to look at a Board Operating Procedures Manual and some other things, which you'll see in the minutes. Okay, so next we come to Board Communication. We have board members that would like to share something that they've participated in the community, or other things that have gone on. Mr. Meadows.
Well, just a couple things that I want to bring up. We removed the link to the board videos off of the board page now back in October. I believe the reason we took them down was because there was some concern that they might not be ADA compliant. So I'm hoping that maybe sometime by the end of this month we can make sure that we do whatever we need to do to get those back up. I believe it's just a matter of getting those closed captioned. I think that I probably speak on behalf of the community members. I've had a lot of people coming up to me wondering how they can watch us online. We're there. It's just that they have to kind of be given the secret code sort of to find us. So if we can just kind of follow up on that, I certainly really appreciate it. And the other thing I wanted to mention was I think that our 10-mile sign still needs a little bit of attention. I've had a few people tell me that when they drive by it, it's really hard to read because of maybe the fonts or the background and
stuff. Are you
so
referencing the electronic sign?
The new sign that we approved a while ago, so if maybe we can get some attention on that, I'd appreciate it. Thank you. That's all I had. And it wasn't pre-written. It was just thoughts that came to my mind here at the last minute. So
thank you, Mr. Mena.
Yep.
And it's been vexing. Several people have asked me the same. There's apparently a back channel way you can find the videos, but the ADA part has been definitely a challenge for us all the way around all of our content on our website. And I know that I think Dr. Matthews has kept the board apprised of the why behind that, and I can certainly continue to ask about what's going on with closed captioning.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Would it be possible to put a time frame on when we could get that addressed? Because it's been since October.
What would you like addressed? The asking of the question or the solution?
If we could get it done within the next, couple of weeks. I don't know what's reasonable. It's been since October.
Yeah. Then my guess is if it's been since October that they haven't been able to find that solution yet. Mr. Mena, I know that this is your background, so perhaps that's something you might know, or Sheila, if you have any idea on it.
I don't have a time.
Sheila, why don't you step up? I know that you had worked and shared a little bit with me that maybe it would be helpful to share with the board.
Yes, we do not have a timeline yet. We have been researching companies because it's not just like watching the movie and then you type it up as you're watching it and then put in the closed captions. We have to find a company, and I did contact the Michigan Department of Education to find out the company they used. Mr. Mena recommended a company. We tried YouTube because they have auto closed captionings, but there's a time constraint there, and if you don't enunciate, it will come up inaudible. So we've just been researching that, and once we do find a company, then all those back meetings will have to be closed captioned. So it'll take some time.
So our entire catalog of meetings, in order to be ADA compliant, from what you understand, would have to be
Yes.
closed captioned?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Holly.
Thank you. Okay. All right. Well, I'll just real quickly, I attended the MASB Government Relations Committee that I sat on last Friday. Just to touch on some of the items that were discussed were the House Bill 4001, which was the repeal of the income tax bill. It was defeated last week and is showing of bipartisanship. The Common Core, which is the repeal of the Common Core, which is House Bill 4192, a repeal of the State School Reform Office, Senate Bill 27, and the governor's proposed budget. The committee also took positions on some of the other legislation. I won't go into detail about those, but one of them included House Bill 4069, which would amend the college credit requirements for individuals to serve as substitute teachers. It was interesting. I know that I asked Dr. Matthews when I got back if we had been having trouble with finding substitutes, because many of the school districts there that were represented on the committee said they're really struggling. So they were very supportive of lowering those requirements from a 90 credit hour colleges to 60. That was interesting to me, because Dr. Matthews said we've been very fortunate this year in terms of having substitutes when we need them, and highly qualified ones, which is great. There was also some discussion about Senate Bill 174, introduced by Mr. Nolenberg, which would revise the state accreditation system for public schools, which there's all kinds of dialogue about that. That's the A to F and what that's going to look like. So a little bit more dialogue about that. Terrific that we had Frog Force. I had just stopped in there last week and got to see them, or maybe it was 2 weeks ago, right before they had to bag, the night they had to bag the robot. So I got in there before they got too bleary-eyed. I understand they stood very late that evening, but it was great to be shown around and got to see a little bit of that. I know that if you haven't already seen a little bit about what they do over there. I just stopped in during a basketball game. They were more than happy to take a little time to show me what they're doing, and even loaned me their safety goggles, which was great. The other thing that I just wanted to mention on your the board table tonight was a list of books. I'm working to try and create a more robust and uniform orientation for board members. So I asked Ms. Holly to put together a small library of books. Over the years, I know we've been given several books, but I don't think any of us have the same ones. So, and maybe some of us do, but because we came on the board at different times and had different orientations, we haven't all been consistently given the same information, but it is all available. So Mrs. Holly has a little small library in her office that have some copies of different books, and I put a list together that's also listed in board resources. So if board members are interested in some of the books that we've been given that they don't already have, please feel free to go in and take a look and see if one of them might interest you. Some of them are not very long or boring. They're not like The World is Flat, which we had to read which we were encouraged to read when we came on the board years ago. Most of them are much more concise, and I think the Art of Teaching, we all were given that at one point in time before we took the Marzano thing, so that might be of interest to board members as well. So that's all I have for this evening. Anybody else have additional comments?
I was just going to say that Green Gala is Saturday. I don't know if they're at capacity. They were approaching it, I think.
Well, yes, and thank you for bringing that up. Yeah, they have sold over 400 tickets, so I do think that they have stopped selling tickets. I'm sure that if somebody's dying to come, there might be a cancellation or two where they might be able to scalp some tickets, that would be available. But it's bound to be a great night. We are back in Novi at the Suburban Showcase Collection, and that should be a great evening of celebration. The Killer Flamingos will be there, and I hope to see some of you at the Green Gala. Mm-hmm. Okay. Without further discussion, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Mena, supported by Mrs. Stevenson. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 6-0. We are adjourned for the evening.